This fourth phase of answering the call to do more with your life is a doing phase. And what it is you need to do in this phase is to make a decision and a commitment. But what is that decision and that commitment all about? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. In the Matrix, Neo was given the choice between taking the red pill and the blue pill by Morpheus. The red pill was a life of freedom and of truth, but of great uncertainty and great challenge. And the blue pill was a life of safety, comfort, security, ignorance, but comfort. And so Neo was given the choice between taking the red pill and taking the blue pill, and he took the red pill, and obviously that's why we had that film, that trilogy. Now, why am I talking about this here? Because this phase is really about taking the red pill, or the choice of whether to take the red pill or the blue pill. Now, when I look back over my experience of this way of life that I've developed, I realised that I actually took the red pill without really knowing it. Because when I started down on this path of leading from my heart, connecting to my passion, connecting to my creativity and seeing where that led me, I got to a point where I realised that I couldn't go back to the way I was living before. I believe I took that red pill when I connected with the deep sense of dissatisfaction that was in my life that I talked about at the beginning of this process. And once I connected with how dissatisfied I was with where I'd come to in life, that I couldn't ignore that anymore, and I had to do something about it. Now, it was at that point I really took the red pill when I decided to connect with that, because that's what motivated me. Once I realised how dissatisfied I was with life, as I said, I couldn't ignore it anymore. But if I could have ignored it at that point, if I could have just escaped from it, actually as I had been doing for quite a long time before, if I could have just ignored it, brushed over it, escaped into the comforts of life, gone on to the TV binges, or get lost in an internet loop, or all the escapes, the comforts of life that is on offer for us. Or, as I've said before, getting lost in the busyness of work and feeling busy and important at work and feeling like I'm achieving something, but actually not really achieving that much at all when you look at it in the grand scheme of things. If I could have just gone off and escaped into those pleasures, those comforts, then I would have taken the blue pill. I would have been taking the blue pill, and I would have carried on, and life would have been the same, and would have ticked over, and I needn't have known anything less. But as I said, I really did take the red pill at that point when I connected with that dissatisfaction and decided that this wasn't how I wanted to live anymore. So I was motivated by that to move on. So this all sounds fairly dramatic, isn't it? Yeah, and I guess it is. It feels, I guess your life is as dramatic as you want it to be. But I know before I kind of entered this process that I'm talking about, that really life is pretty much undramatic. One day was pretty much the same as the next, and okay, yeah, I'd look forward to holidays and time away and time with friends, but then I'd have those and I'd go back to the same old way of living before. And I know that once I came on this process that I'm talking about now, that I have experienced great uncertainty. I've spoken before how I've experienced extreme self-doubt, extreme anxiety over what life has in store for me. That uncertainty, as I spoke about, and just dissatisfaction, disappointment, still dissatisfaction and still disappointment. But actually I've never really wanted to go back to the way of life as it was before. Never really, okay. And so, so I take the rough with the smooth. So what is this like? What are these choices we're talking about now? I mean, this is spoken about in much of the spiritual literature out there, but the choices we're talking about now are a choice essentially between spiritual values and worldly values. The worldly values we recognise as those success measures of gradings, income, and achievements, measured achievements that you can see when you look at somebody, whether they've got success by the clothes they're wearing, the watch they're wearing, the shoes they're wearing, the car they're driving, that kind of stuff, which There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with worldly pleasures and worldly values, but it's just about what comes first. So spiritual values, as I'm talking about now, it's a choice between spiritual values or worldly values. Now, what do I mean by spiritual? I think this term is often misunderstood. Well, everybody really interprets this term as they want to. When I talk about spirituality in the context of this whole process, what I mean about spirituality is your connection with your spirit, your connection with your sense of who you are. And spirituality is about gaining that deeper connection with that sense of who you are. And that's what I mean by spirituality, your own spirit. And whether you believe, as I believe, that spirit is connected, is a way of being connected to the whole and to the good, the greater consciousness, there's many different ways of putting that, whether you believe that's connected to a higher power or not, I do believe that part is connected to something greater. And I guess that's what spirituality is about. So, the other way I think of putting that is that if I don't know what the greater powers of the universe are, which I'm connected to, I know that I'm not the greatest power, and it's really important for me to know that, because once I start believing that I'm all powerful, then that creates a lot of anxiety as well, because then I'm all in control. And actually, I've had a lot of relief from realising that there's a lot I'm not in control of. There's a huge amount I'm not in control of. I'm so thankful for that. So yes, the choice between spiritual values and worldly values. This is the choice between the heart and the head, the instinct versus logic. This is a choice between feeding the soul and feeding the ego. Now, when I say a choice between, again, I don't mean it's either one or the other, because I think that can become confusing, because actually we need both of these energies in our life, but it's just about what we prioritise and what comes first. And I've certainly found that greater sense of fulfilment and sense of satisfaction by leading with the heart, leading with my instinct, leading with seeking to develop my character over building the comforts of life. And really that is to say, it's not an easy journey to embark on. It's not an easy path, but it is one that leads to a much greater sense of fulfilment ultimately. So that's what I mean about taking the red pill. And maybe you've already taken the red pill. I believe that if you're considering this way of life, if you've connected with that sense of dissatisfaction, if you desire more, you desire to be more, to deliver a unique contribution, to leave a legacy, something bigger than you, I believe you've already taken that red pill. And as I said, you can go back, and there probably will be times that you really want to go back and just escape from it all and sit in comforts, and there'll be times when you do that. And, it's not as hard as it sounds. This kind of process, as I'm talking about, it is challenging, but as I said, the rewards come with those challenges as well. So in my next episode, I'm going to do another book review, and this is one that is all about the road to character. So I hope you'll join me for that.